All right, what is going on, everybody? It's Ethan here, coming to you from the Crack Canyon Trailhead. Yes, funny sounding name for a canyon. But I'm actually hiking 3 canyons today, 3 slots, and all 3 of them have funny sounding names. I'll be splitting them up into 2 separate videos because it's 2 different hikes from 2 different trailheads, but this is going to be the first one. I'm starting at about 8 in the morning to hike Crack Canyon. This is a slot canyon here in the San Rafael Swell area in southeastern Utah, and it is about a 5-mile round trip hike, 5 or 6 miles. It's pretty short, not too difficult of a hike. There's lots of scrambling and stuff like that in the canyon, so it should be a really fun time. But this one is a very dry canyon, not very technical at all. But it looks beautiful from the pictures, so I can't wait to check it out and show you guys. And some beautiful views here this morning, and I'm the only one here, so that's good. And I am completely out in the middle of nowhere right now. This is kind of on the other side of the reef from Hanksville and Goblin Valley State Park, and yeah, lots of driving on very desolate dirt roads to get back here. But I made it back here. I just slept right here at the trailhead last night, and now I am starting on the hike. I got GPS helping me out so I don't get lost, which I would highly recommend when hiking any of these slot canyons back here in the San Rafael Swell, because right now there's a little bit of a trail and I can actually tell where I need to go, but a lot of times there's not. I learned that when I hiked Moonshine Wash a couple months ago, that sometimes you really got to pay close attention to the map and where you're going to make sure that you don't get lost. But anyway, I'll get back to you guys a little further in, and I'm just going to hike this short little approach trail to the entrance to the slot. All right, well, I'm hiking in this little wash, and coming up to the San Rafael Reef. This big formation right here goes on for quite a few miles. It stretches all the way from north of I-70 all the way down through past through Hanksville. So I mean, well over 50 miles, and it's a really beautiful feature, and it has a lot of slot canyons that have been carved through the rock from flash floods. So it's a really cool place to go on a hike, go for an adventure. There's lots of options out here for different slot canyons that you can hike. Some of them are really easy. Some of them are kind of like this one, where it's kind of mid-grade, kind of intermediate, I guess you could say. And then there's also plenty of them that are very technical, and you need to rappel and do all kinds of technical canyoneering stuff. So just a really awesome place. All right, looks like I'm entering the canyon. Definitely not a slot yet. Apologies for the wind, by the way. I kind of have a feeling that in the canyon the wind might be howling a little bit, but we'll see. But anyway, yeah, coming up on the entrance of the canyon here, and hopefully it'll turn into a slot soon. It's honestly, this trail's only about 2.5-3 miles each way, and I've already gone a little over a mile in, so at this point the slot can't be too long. I guess we'll see. All right, well, I've come up to the first area of interest here, a little bit of scrambling to get further down into the wash, and you can tell that the canyon walls are kind of closing in up there, so I think I'm getting pretty close to getting into the slot. Definitely important to have shoes with good grip when you're hiking through the canyons here, all this slick rock and stuff. But yeah, it looks like there's another drop right there. Pretty cool. I absolutely love seeing rock like this, seeing the sandstone with all the holes and everything carved into it from the erosion. It is so cool. And this is typically something you only really see when you're in the canyons and washes out here. It's really beautiful. And I mean, it's just all over the place through here. And you can see the canyon's getting a bit more narrow. Definitely still wouldn't call this a slot canyon, but it looks like that might be right around the corner here. So finally starting to get some interesting stuff here on the hike. Well, this is a cool little section of the canyon. It got really narrow for like a second, but kind of opened right back up again. I'm starting to have a feeling like this might not be like a real deal slot canyon, you know. I think Crack Canyon is one of the most highly recommended ones to do for more beginner hikers, people who are new to doing slot canyons and stuff. So I have a feeling that this might kind of be as good as it gets. That section I passed through a little ways back might have been the most narrow section, but we'll see. I mean, it looks like I still got a mile, maybe a little under a mile to go before the turnaround point. So, see what happens. All right, well, I gotta tell you, this wasn't exactly what I was expecting. This really never has turned into a proper slot canyon. It's kind of stayed pretty open most of the way. I mean, honestly, even if you're a little claustrophobic, thus far, everything I've done, you'd be fine. And that is not something that you could normally say about a slot canyon. I can tell you that this is no moonshine wash. I mean, this kind of reminds me of moonshine wash after we got out of the slot portion of the hike. But we'll see. I think I still have about another half a mile to go, so maybe the very end of it turns into a proper slot canyon. I'm not sure. But yeah, so far it's been pretty easy going, but still really beautiful. Well, just when I thought it was over, finally we get to the actual slot. I tell you, up to this point in the hike, this is all very easy going. I mean, totally dog friendly, kid friendly, the whole nine. I can't speak to the last little portion of this hike through the slot, but up to this point, everything's been really easy. I mean, the only, I guess, sort of difficult part was that little scrambling section about a mile back that way, but even that really wasn't that bad. So I'm going to drop down a little bit and finally get to do some hiking through an actual slot. I'm excited. All right, well, immediately upon entering the slot, there was 3 consecutive drops. That middle one there is the biggest. That one, I would say, would definitely be a little bit of trouble for some people, but most people should be fine. And then a little pool of water right here. But down in the slot now, and it is beautiful in here. This is exactly what I was looking for. I can already tell this is a short slot, but I don't even care. And there are a couple little pools of water in here, which I'll tell you does not bode well for my next hike that I was planning on doing, but whatever. But yeah, really, really cool. All right, well, this side of the canyon's definitely had a lot more scrambling than the first side. So obviously it's opened up out of a slot again. That slot portion was very short, like maybe a quarter mile at the most, but still really fun. I mean, it gave you the, definitely the slot canyon excitement. You got to do, those 3 drops in pretty quick succession, which was a lot of fun. And it looks like the canyon's getting a little more narrow up here again, so we might be going back down into something of a slot over here. All right, I gotta say, this kind of makes me laugh right here. Someone tied a little hand line. It's like 3 feet of rope. Like, really? You needed that to up climb this? Or down climb, whatever they were doing? I mean, it is a little tricky, but it's not that bad. Yeah, you could see it just came through another little slot portion, and it's opening up again right out here. But yeah, I would say that if you're looking for an easy hike, I would stop where it originally turns into a slot instead of continuing to go through. But if you're looking for, some of the more spicy, fun adventure stuff, then definitely do the whole canyon. Because, at first I was kind of like, well, the scenery's cool, but this is not exactly what I was expecting. But, the further I went in, I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. There does end up being a good amount of scrambling and a couple of short slot sections. Keeps it interesting enough that I would say that I'd highly recommend hiking this canyon. All right, well, it's going into a 3rd slot, it looks like, which is awesome. This is definitely different than Moonshine Wash, because Moonshine was kind of just, you go down into the slot, you're in the slot for a little over a mile, and then once the canyon opens up, that's it. But here in Crack Canyon, it's kind of like you go into a really short little slot section, then it opens back up, then closes in again. It's really cool. I mean, that is just beautiful in here. And the All Trails map ends really quickly up here, I think. I think it ends right about here, actually, so we'll see. But yeah, this is really, really cool. This is a little wider than the other 2 slots, but this is awesome. The canyon walls are definitely a lot higher here. All right, well, things are definitely opening back up again. I don't think there's going to be any more slots. But I got to tell you, I was starting to think there wouldn't really actually be a proper slot canyon on this hike. And turns out there was 3 short ones, but still 3 of them. And 2 out of the 3 definitely had some good scrambling climbing moves in there. So it was a lot of fun. I think overall, I'd say this would be a great hike for a more of a beginner to slot canyons, but which, honestly, I still pretty much am. But it would also be fun for, really anyone just looking for a fun hike with maybe a little bit of a challenge involved. But overall, it's really not too bad. I'm actually past where the All Trails map ends. I'm about almost a half a mile past that now. I just wanted to keep going a little further through the canyon just because, why not? it's still really beautiful. Well, in my opinion, it's definitely worth going a little bit past where the All Trails map ends. But obviously, this is kind of a choose your own adventure situation, but there's definitely still some cool stuff to see past that. All right, well, I climbed a little ways out of the canyon to see if it would be worth continuing ahead. And based on what I'm seeing up here, doesn't really seem like there's any reason to keep going. It looks like kind of just more of the same. The canyon's opened up quite a bit. I mean, it's almost like, you know, just like it's a wash again at this point. So probably not too much to see further ahead, but you know, I'll tell you, if this was the only hike I was doing today, I would definitely keep going. I'd probably try to go all the way to the other side of the reef if I could, but you can actually see where the reef ends and where it's just more flat desert out there, and then there's another big formation off in the distance there. Really cool stuff. Good to end this hike with a good view. So yeah, I mean, pretty easy to climb out of here. I basically just climbed up this little spine on the rocks up from the canyon floor down there. So I'm gonna just get some water real quick and then turn around and start hiking back towards the trailhead. I'd also like to point out I haven't seen anybody else today, and I'm about to shed this layer here because it is already really warm. I'm getting sweaty. It's supposed to go up to the low 70s today, and it already feels like it's in the high 50s, maybe low 60s. It was in the like mid 40s when I started. So yeah, really beautiful hike. Really cool. Definitely come check out Crack Canyon. All right, well, I'm heading back towards the car. Still haven't seen anyone yet, which is awesome. Especially considering it's a Saturday and the weather is perfect today. But anyway, if you follow the All Trails map exactly, the mileage is pretty spot on at 5 miles round trip. But if you go a little further like I did, for me this is going to end up being about a 7-mile round trip, but it's really not that bad at all. There's not a ton of elevation difference on this hike, so other than a few scrambling sections, it's pretty easy. And as far as slot canyons go, those drops and scrambling sections are not that bad. All right, heading back through one of the slots, and this is the second one. There's 3 short ones, and this is the second one. And I would say this one has probably the most difficult. This, I would say, is the most difficult move in all of Crack Canyon. You can see there's another drop right there, and I showed you the ones that were earlier in the canyon, but this one is definitely the most technical, but it's really not that bad. We'll see how it goes up climbing it though. All right, back in the first of the 3 slots. This one is the coolest in my opinion. It's the most narrow and has more technical stuff than the other 2. That second one did have the hardest like single spot, but this has more technical stuff overall. Really cool. But as you can see, pretty much ends right there. You got these like consecutive drops and then you're out. All right, back in the wash, out of Crack Canyon, and yeah, just heading back to the car, getting really close to the trailhead. I did finally see another person just about like a half a mile back. I passed by a couple of people that were just starting their hike down into the canyon. So I didn't have the hike completely to myself today, but almost completely to myself. And like I said, that's really saying something considering that it's a Saturday and it's like absolutely perfect weather right now. I mean, you cannot ask for better weather. I guess if I was really going to complain, maybe slightly less windy. But yeah, it's such a nice day, beautiful hike, and I'm getting really close to getting back to the car. All right, made it back to the trailhead right there. There's a few other cars here now. I don't know where all those people are, but it looks like there's 3 other cars here besides mine now. I only saw 2 other people on the hike and they were together. So I don't know where those 2 other cars came from, but either way, beautiful hike. Very, very cool. Those 3 little slot canyons were awesome. The canyon as a whole was really fun, and it had just enough scrambling to make things interesting, but not too much scrambling or, you know, technical difficulty to the point where, you know, it would kind of be off limits for a lot of people. I think that most people would have not much of a problem doing this hike. Dogs, I'd say you can bring dogs, just be prepared to, you know, lift them up over a couple of those sections. But yeah, really beautiful, really awesome hike, and I'm really glad I got to come out here and do it. So this is not the last hike of the day for me. I'm going to be heading over to another trailhead soon, and I'll be doing that as a separate video. So I'll see you guys on the next one, and if you enjoyed this, remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. See you guys soon.